Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you live from the nation's capital city, Abuja. I'm Zainab Bella, and of course, my co-hosts.
Yes, indeed. Good morning, Zainab. It looks like a beautiful day already in Abuja. And at Trust TV, we pride ourselves with bringing you nothing but the absolute best. We appreciate you for taking time out to join us today on Daybreak. I am Darshan Hussaina Usman.
Well, today we'll be discussing the fight against corruption, and we'll be joined by Community Engagement Associate of Connected Development Code, Mukhtar Modibo.
Lukman Afolang, an anti-corruption crusader, will also be joining us on the show to discuss a similar issue.
As usual, we'll be taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak, but before that, here is October 13th in world history. Take a look.
Well, October 13 is indeed a remarkable day. First of all, it's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. It's also World Thrombosis Day. And in 1792, construction begins on the White House, and we can actually see, the end product. In 1923 as well, Ankara replaces Constantinople as the capital of Turkey. Next remarkable thing that happened in history is in 1983, the first cell phone network is launched in Chicago, and we are all reaping the dividends of that particular invention. In 1943 as well, Italy declared war on its former Axis partner Germany after the downfall of Mussolini and collapse of his fascist government. Now let's talk about the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, which was started in 1989 after a call by the United Nations General Assembly for a day to promote a global culture of risk awareness and disaster reduction. Held every 13th October, the day celebrates how people and communities around the world are reducing their exposure to disasters and raising awareness about the importance of reining in the risks that they face.
Now, in 2015, at the third UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in Sendai, Japan, the international community was reminded that disasters hit hardest at the local level, with the potential to cause loss of life and great social and economic upheaval. Now, sudden onset disasters displace millions of people every year. Disasters, many of which are exacerbated by climate change, have a negative impact on investment in sustainable development and the desired outcomes. 2021 will be focused on international cooperation for developing countries to reduce their disaster risk and disaster losses.
Well, one constant thing I believe in life aside change is risk.
Right.
In everything you do, there must be a risk, and you should be ready to take it. But the ability for you to be able to handle these risks
Disasters,
is
right.
what makes it different.
I think this day needs to be celebrated more. We need to recognize it more here
Yes.
in Nigeria.
Yes.
We face quite a lot of disasters, and the response sometimes is not really positive. And we should use this day, to reflect on
Definitely.
the importance of the day as well.
Most definitely. All right, we'll take a quick intermission before the dailies. Stay tuned.
My name is Samuel Dada.
Yakubu Isa, ana mana kabi da jeji.
Aminu Musa.
A wannan harkar ce muke dan samun abinci, an muke taimaka ma wasu da yawa.
Looking for private jobs. Sometimes you get employed and at the process of payment, you undergo some kind of stress.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes, with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
But in a situation where you find that they must look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Welcome back to the dailies today. Yes, and we have a deputy business editor, Daily Trust, in the studio with us. His name is Sunday Michael, and he's here to review the papers this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thanks for
Welcome to the
joining
show.
us.
My pleasure.
All right, so today we will start with Daily Trust newspaper, and we'll start with the headline here that says, Insecurity. 62 private jet owners shun customs verification, and you'll find that particular story on page 38. If you move on to page 10, this is a topic that we discussed on the dailies yesterday, and it says, Abducted Kebbi students freed after over 100 days in captivity. All right, if you move on to the next, still on the front page, we have 1,153 civilians, 176 security personnel killed in 3 months. And this is this particular story is on page 4, and this is a breakdown of killings in 3 months. That's from July to September 2021. We also have a special edition here, and the title or the headline says, Nigerian Railway, a Mori-bound sector roars. And then with that, we'll move on to the major headline on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. And it says, despite bid disqualification, FG moves to award Intel's multi-billion naira boat service contracts. And then we have a rider here that says, BPP, NPA, kick as company demands 25 years tenure, 25% commission. Another writer here says, presidency pass buck, ministry mum. And then the final writer on that particular headline here says, Intel's decline comment. And you can find that particular story on page 5.
Okay, let's move on to the Punch newspaper this morning. Right at the top, we have Nigeria's export profile same in 40 years, below Vietnam, Malaysia. That's according to AFDB advisor, and you find that on page 16. We also have RMAFC presents new revenue sharing formula to Buhari, December. That's on page 30 of the Punch newspaper. You'd also find 8-month field imports go up $690 million amid forex scarcity. That's on page 29. And on page 29 as well, delinquent debtors exploiting Nigeria's judiciary to frustrate recovery. That's according to Emefiele. And the big headline there states INEC awaits Buhari's nod on e-transmission of results. And the writer is saying existing law stipulates manual collation. Amendments require Buhari's assent. That's according to INEC. And another writer is saying direct primaries will end godfatherism, says House of Representatives chairman. And you'll also see APC-led National Assembly has subjected wishes of Nigerians to money bags. That's according to the PDP. And below that, you're going to see NSAS. Lagos loses 9.7 billion to toll gates closure. Plans reopening. And you'll find that on page 38 of the Punch newspaper. And you would also find aggrieved son hacks father to death over chicken. Charged to court. That's funny, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And then you'd also find presidency. Dokwesi impressing benefactors in North. Position weird, says Ohaneze. And you'd find that story on page 41 of the Punch newspaper.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the Guardian newspaper. And we have at the bottom, we actually have a story here that says CSOs, parties, hail Senate's U-turn on e-transmission of election results. The writer here says, reject direct primary. Senate insists direct primary not targeted at governors. Direct primary, a blow to democracy, says PDP. And the final writer here, APC using its majority in NAS to manipulate constitution, says CUPP. We also have this story on page 4, and it says Nigeria's challenges could get worse. Kuka warns. And then on page 7, it says police hunt for abductors of 3 Kaduna seminarians. This is actually a sad one that happened yesterday, and we hope they're found quickly. All right, we'll move on to page 7. That's on page 7. You'll find a story here that says Yar'Adua's daughter, Zainab, forged Abuja land documents, minister tells court. We also have this one that shocked a lot of people in Kaduna, and it's on page 12. And the story is on Ataga's murder. Drama as defendant changes guilty plea at counsel's instance. Drama as defendant changes guilty plea at counsel's instance. And then the major headline here on the front page is Fintechs shun stock exchange for $876.5 million funding overseas. And we have a few writers here. Exchange can only boast of 8 listed telecom firms. Experts blame Naira devaluation, shortage of forex, others. And then more venture capitalists needed to fund SMEs across sectors. These are all the headlines we have for Guardian newspaper today.
Okay, let's take our last paper this morning, which is the Nation newspaper. Right at the top on page 6, you'd see Reps, Southwest Development Commission. And on page 57, customs duties, 91 private jets risk forfeiture. And you'd find on page 3 and page 5, soldier shot, many injured in APGA rally shooting. You'd also find rain of tributes for Ndubisi Kanu in Lagos. And the headline on the front page states, Senate, we bowed to public on e-transmission of results. And the writer is saying, Wike, Oye, Ekweremadu, Lord decision. INEC will wait for President's assent. You'd also find ministers face quarterly performance appraisal. And on page 4, you'd find government spends 30% of forex on petroleum products importation. And below that, the pictorial there, where you'd find Tinubu
You see 7 die in Kwara accident. Bandits abduct 3 in Catholic church attack. So these are some of the stories on the dailies this morning. So we're going to start with the Daily Trust newspaper. We're picking up the headline which says, despite bid disqualification, federal government moves to award Intel's multi-billion naira boat service contract. What are your thoughts about this? Is this move accurate at this time?
Strange, isn't it? So conventionally around the world, for you to get awarded a contract, you're supposed to bid, you're supposed to be pre-qualified, that is shortlisted, haven't met the criteria for the contract. And then those criteria include your previous experience, your capacity to do the job, funding arrangements, technical expertise. When all of those dots have been ticked, then you are deemed qualified, and then you go through other process, and then the contract is awarded. But what you are saying in this case is somebody was pre-qualified at some stage, and the person went to court to challenge the process. Whilst that process is still in the court, we are privy to documents that it appears that contract will be awarded to the person, after some other persons have been qualified. We thought that wasn't fair, that wasn't just, and people should not be getting contract from the law court, So it's a messy situation, because at the end of the day, they get this contract. The other people who have been pre-qualified would also go to court.
Right.
What happens in all of these instances, the job would not be done. Right now, we have lost nearly 70 billion from not doing anything on the boat service contract for 1 year. And if we continue like this, for a country that is looking for all the kind of money it can raise to meet the 2022 budget, that looks like a disaster.
Now, the Intel is declining the comment.
Well, which is the typical thing you get most times when people are under investigations. They simply didn't want to say anything about it, whatever that means. Maybe they are very convinced about their case. We don't know what that is. But as a country, as citizens who are worried about where government can pick any penny that it can to meet some of those laudable projects that it has lined up for itself, you should be worried when an action or lack of action, as the case may be, is leading to this kind of loss, and nobody is taking responsibility for it.
But since nobody, even the presidency, isn't saying anything about it and has referred any questions or comments to the Minister of Transportation, that's Rotimi Amechi.
Well, it's strange because they are all involved. The document we stumbled on showed that all of these parties are privy to what had happened. We don't know what interest anybody is protecting. I think it would be premature for me to say here that the intentions are to defraud this country, but the whole arrangement looks suspect, and you will recall that even the former MD of NPA had to be suspended on account of all of this kind of situation. She's still serving others in suspension. There's an investigation going on, and that is why the whole thing appears suspect. The president had initially given a go-ahead for those who were pre-qualified and shortlisted to be awarded the contract, and then suddenly we are now seeing a conversation between somebody who was disqualified now in the front burner to get this contract. So it looks all messy. We hope that now that the report is in the public domain, at least they would honor the sensibility of Nigerians to come out with what appears like a sensible explanation to what we are saying.
All right, let's move on to the story on page 10. A lot of people are actually curious to know what you feel about the freed abducted students, that have been freed that are in captivity for over 100 days.
What can we say? We cannot express fully what the family of these 100 people will be going through right now. Joy, excitement, indifference. 100 or more days without your words. You are not sure how they are feeling. I mean, even with you in a proper accommodation, if you forget to close your doors and 2 or 3 mosquitoes make it into the room, you know you are in for a lot of work. To think that these persons have been in the open with all of these weather conditions, with just about the last time we heard about how others survived on grass. That's not a condition you wish for your enemy, all right? So I can't imagine the kind of trauma that these children would have gone through, and even their parents. To go to sleep every day and not knowing the condition of your children is horrible, it's horrendous. And so on the one hand, we feel happy that 100 are back home. But what is even more paramount is that we find a way to check the situation that had led to this unending kidnap of vulnerable and weak people among our society, children, women, who have done nothing to upset this country other than just struggling to survive.
Wow. So we still have some of these students still in captivity, and we are in the dark, and a lot of people are saying, what is the government doing, to rescue some of these children? What are your thoughts about that?
Your thought is as good as mine. The question really is, we don't see enough communication from government. Sometimes what it does appear like, haven't had a close experience with this kind of kidnap also, is that when it happens to you, you are left to your fate. At that point, you experience firsthand and fully what it means for you to be left on your own. Because even when these children are rescued, we don't hear anything about the government coming up with structures that put them through some trauma counseling.
Right.
Not even for the parents, right? We don't see any kind of government intervention to pacify these people and offer some kind of information to say, see, we're not sleeping on our horse. We are doing everything. I mean, we just had the independence. We were discussing Twitter on our independence, whereas we could have been offering hope to people whose children have been in the dark for over 100 days. What were those comments that would say, see, we have not forgotten this. We are doing everything possible to ensure that these children are rescued and that they are returned to the proper frame of mind. So we are not, the institution or the country is failing people at different level, and so it's painful, like you rightly said. No information is coming out. I mean, parents practically have to sell everything, go begging to raise ransom to. And once the children are released, that's all. You only see security forces showing up after people have paid ransom to say we have rescued them. So you begin to wonder, what is the nexus between paying ransom and getting people freed and rescued? I mean, the two don't basically align. So it's a whole lot of gap we need to fill. This institution, whether from the point of government or CSOs or development players, need to start thinking of what to do, because when you push people to the wall, you are not sure what they will come out as. Those children whom have been put through all kinds of things, you are not sure what they will turn out. They've become hardened, and they could just take to anything.
Do you think our challenges, as Nigerians, is actually getting better or worse? Is everything, going as planned as regards to what the government is actually doing, as regards insecurity? Because there's actually another, story here that says, a report that says 1,153 civilians and 176 security personnel were killed in 3 months alone.
So,
and then link it to the abduction of the seminarians yesterday as well.
So that answers your question, right? When you said, are things really going as planned? Certainly, no. You know what has happened to us that is very dangerous? We have become numb to pain. You suffer something repeatedly for so long, it doesn't feel like pain anymore, right? When you meet these guys in local workshops that due to accidents get caught every time. After a while, they just see a cut like a normal thing. You see the blood, you wipe it off, and you move on like not a part of your blood has been spilled. That is what we have become as a society. Those days, if there is an accident and 5 people die, everywhere is overtaken by this sadness.
Right.
For merely knowing that we lost 5 persons to accident, right? You were talking about disaster at the beginning of this program. Today, we wake up to all kinds of news. Son stabbing father over chicken, And it feels so normal, father sleeping with daughter.
Terrible.
How did we normalize this kind of information? If those days, if any kind of adoption had happened with 1 or 2 persons, everywhere go frenzy. Today, hundreds. And how these people coordinate adoptions where to transport 100 persons who are even traveling under the right condition is not mean feat. Not to talk of coordinating an attack. For you to do 100 persons, if one person will have to hold another one person, that means you came into that attack with another 100 persons. No casualties suffered. Then you move 100 people successfully through a road with all of the security presence into some obscure environment, and then we start communicating about what is to be paid and what. It's so strange. No normal country should hear these kind of things on a daily basis and still remain sane. So certainly not. And look at the report of the killings, 1,000 and something in 3 months. If you break that by 90 days, it meant we were losing nearly 10 persons every day. And if you break that by 24 hours, it means every 2 or 3 hours somebody is dropping dead. Now, this is from gunshot. This is from a crisis situation. We are not talking about mothers we are losing to maternal mortality. We are not talking about children that we are losing to malnutrition. We are not talking about those we are losing to disaster. We talked about accident that claimed 7. So if you put the total number of avoidable death in this country every day, you'll be talking about 20 people every day dying for no cause.
Terrible.
So that's crazy.
So let's take a look at another headline on the Punch newspaper that states INEC awaits nod on e-transmission of results. So INEC is saying they are waiting for the president to give a nod on e-transmission of result, and that's because in the Constitution it states that it's supposed to be a manual process. What are your thoughts about that?
No, not exactly. I think that was one of the good news that came out of the country yesterday, outside the killings and everything. So finally, the Senate bowed to pressure to allow for e-transmission of results, which has become very contentious, and with even such persons as the former INEC chairman saying, in 2021, you cannot possibly be saying it is not possible to transmit results electronically. So they went into a conference, and to think that the Senate has bowed to popular opinion, it's a good thing, because if you say you represent people, then it means you should listen to what they want and confine to it. So INEC is an independent body. That's what the Constitution tells us. It then means that to a very large extent they should determine the how they think is the best process to conduct elections in Nigeria.
Right.
And INEC had come out to say we have the capacity to transmit results electronically. So it beats anybody's imagination that the Senate will wake up and say an independent body should then seek permission from the NCC, which is headed by a government appointee, to determine whether or not it is suitable. Then it means you are subjecting their independence to the judgment of people in power. And we think that way you are already eroding into that independence that was conceived in the setting up of INEC. So this is good news. What it then means is now that they have agreed, the versions of the amendment that they have agreed on will be transmitted to the president, and expectedly the president can sign off in good time so that they can implement some of those changes well ahead of time for the elections.
Okay, on page 29, a story here says 8 months fuel imports gulp $690 million amidst forex scarcity. Let's have your thoughts on this.
Crazy again, if you ask me. What it means is, because we do not refine fuels in Nigeria, and because we fix the prices that we must sell, private importers feel that the price at which we currently sell is not good enough for them to import and make profit, so they've hands off importation of fuel. And the government agency, the NNPC, that has then taken the responsibility of importing fuel to meet local demand is saying, because we want to maintain the current price, we are paying about $600 million to subsidize what should be the actual cost of importing fuel and the rate we are selling. We hear that the actual landing cost of fuel today should be around 280 naira per liter, and we are buying at 162. It means the difference between 162 and 280 is borne by the NNPC. So if you then look at that amount, it feeds into the argument that should we continue to subsidize fuel production? $600 million could be so much that we can use in fixing our health systems or some other things in the country that are deserving. The argument by other people is, why are we subsidizing? You know, you and I probably have a single car we need to move around with. Some of these politicians or so-called big men in Nigeria move around with 20 cars. So if you mean for every single car that they buy a fuel, this country subsidizes 1 liter of that fuel for nearly over 100 naira. So that's where the question I've always been. Do we continue to subsidize those people who have the means, or find or allow fuel to float at its actual rate and find and channel that subsidy into something else that can impact you and I? So it's a serious argument, because again, if you remove the subsidy, it will impact on price of transport, then it will impact on cost of goods, then it will impact on several other things, then the poor also suffer. So it's a delicate balance, all because as a giant of Africa and oil producing country, we have not been able to find a way to refine sufficient enough fuel for us to use locally. So we'll continue to suffer this dilemma until maybe if we increase our prayers enough. They said prayers work these days. Dangote can quickly finish his refinery, and maybe that will be some kind of hope that will cushion the effect of this. Even at that, it will not drop, but it will at least cushion the effect of that, and then we can begin to channel those kind of savings to fixing schools, to providing quality healthcare, to providing good roads, and maybe a safer environment for everybody.
Now, but experts are blaming this on the Naira devaluation.
There is a whole lot of sides to the Naira devaluation. I mean, you can't give what you don't have. We don't print the dollar. Yet, if you take an average Nigerian, 60% of his makeups, from the hair to the toe, if it's a woman, it's probably imported. And then you need a dollar to import that. So it is not the CBN's responsibility to bring in Naira. To bring in dollar. Dollar comes in from export activities. Right now, the only major revenue earner for Nigeria is oil. And even at that, we are not selling sufficient quantity. We are only selling crude. We are not adding value. So not enough dollar is coming in to cushion our own lifestyle. We import toothpicks. We import just about everything. Phones alone, we spend hundreds of billions on importing phones and phones accessories alone. So this mismatch means that the few dollars we have as a country has to be delicately allocated. The companies that operate in this place need spare parts for their factories. If those companies stop operating, it has consequence for job, it has consequence for price of the goods that they produce. So they try to say, how much of this little that we have can we give to these companies? Can we give to Nigerians whose children are schooling abroad? Can we give to people who are seeking medical attention abroad? And can we reserve for unforeseen circumstances? So it's a delicate case. Do we just pump out everything we have in our reserve to maintain this high-profile lifestyle, or continue to manage until such a time that maybe the money we make from sales of oil would increase, and then we can have a bit more dollar to sell? But ultimately, the Naira will continue to struggle until, as a country, we begin to export sufficiently and we start making money from different other sources and not rely on oil. Because we landed here today because the economy closed last year. We had oil in the IC, nobody was buying because all the factories were shut down. All the airlines were not flying. Everybody was indoors, living with whatever they had. Countries even stopped selling drugs because they were not sure how long they would be in. Some countries stopped selling rice, stopped selling wheat, and they were saying, let us maintain what we have just in case this lockdown was going to be longer. So we saw all of that effect. It will take a while before the world returns to that full production where we can then begin to sell oil at the levels where we can get more income. So that is the situation of the Naira. It is neither here nor there. I think it behoves on us as a country to seriously then consider the whole talk around diversification and follow it up to the letter.
Right. Okay, let's talk about custom duties. It states here on the Nation newspaper, 91 private jets risk forfeiture.
And 62 private jet owners shun customs verification.
So that, again, is another delicate thing we have seen in the scene. So custom is saying some persons brought in private jets, registered them as private jet. What that means It's like buying a car and saying you want to use for private use. And then somewhere along the line, we start seeing you running around with those cars, doing some commercial activities or running errands that we don't quite understand. And they are saying, we need to know what you are using those jets for, right? If you are using them for commercial activity and you are making money, it then means you should be paying some kind of tax that we are not getting right now. Because on the books, you seem to be registered as commercial, but then we see you doing some points here and there. That makes sense. On the other hand, they are saying it's also a security issue. If you move these things around and we are not sure why you are moving them, you then may possibly be moving things we are also not sure. There have been allegations of how jets land in Zamfara and move gold out of this country. I mean, it only has to be in this country, all right? Because everywhere else, before the jet takes off, the intent must be known. You know, everything it is going to do and the people who will fly it will be known. So these are all of the questions that are coming in trying to tight up our noses around all the loopholes that could result in some kind of security dilemma for us. So they call 87 of those people showed up. 62 were certified to be private jets used for commercial activities. The other 22 or thereabout, 27, could not get the certification. And then it meant they could not prove that they paid the right amounts to customs, and customs said, okay, until you're able to prove to us we are not clearing you, you have this X amount of money to pay. Those were for the ones that showed up. 62 others ignored the call, even until the initial expiration. They didn't show up. What it means is a disregard for constituted authority, it's a disregard for this country, and you really didn't think that it was worth your time. I mean, if the customs agency will send out a message like this and you know you're affected and you didn't even put out any information to say, I am unable to come because of ABC or XYZ. They basically shunned this, and this has serious implications, you know. And the custom is saying, if you do not comply, we would have to impound those jets because we have sufficient information from their registrations with the relevant aviation authorities that they are in this country, they operate within this country, and they cannot be operating in isolation, they cannot be operating in using our skies without understanding what goes on in those jets. So that is where we stand. I hope the federal government at this level gives the custom and exercise the requisite political will, because for you to ignore the customs, then it must be that you are somewhere in that bracket where you think you are an untouchable. So it has to take the compelling of the instruments of governments to force them to do what is right, because I mean you can't try this in the US or in the UK.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. We hope to have you next time. We have been talking to Sunday Michael, Deputy Editor, Business Daily Trust. After this quick timeout, we're going to kickstart our first discussion on the show. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Nice to see you, sir. You got a 10-year-old son, a 12-year-old son. He's a shill boy. Yeah. And how did he get to that stage? You allowed it to happen. You allow it to fester. It's like a cancer.
It's a failure of the family, a failure of the society, and a failure of governance.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
To operate within the context of the law with much respect to human rights.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, a load of 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day.
For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
Welcome back to the show. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. Now, recent revelations by Pandora Papers investigations have exposed secret financial dealings of some prominent Nigerians, including political leaders. And since the investigation was made public, anti-corruption agencies have not said a word or gave updates on the situation. Community Engagement Associate of Connected Development Code, Mukhtar Modibo, is right here with us in the studio to discuss this. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. All right, so since this actually came out, since Pandora Papers released the leak, the EFCC and the ICPC have been mum. What's your take on this?
It's nothing new, really. The truth is, there were Panama Papers before Pandora Papers.
Right.
And then we all know that it has been happening, right? You know, we're living in a country that has had in the news that there was snake that swallows money, monkey that swallows money.
Mm-hmm.
So having to see Pandora Papers, you know, bringing out people out there is not something new. So I always say that it's not something new. But what is new is the fact that the presidency, the anti-graft agencies and everything, and every other person that is fighting corruption in the country is quiet. Now, that quietness means what? That quietness means the fact that, you know, if you look at this system of government, or this government in particular, come into power because there is going to be, it comes into power because of accountability and transparency. And what we're looking at is, this is one of the biggest point. Around 91 countries, you know, there are a whole lot of presidents that were mentioned, you know, they came out to say something. But individually, like the governor of KB, you know, some other governors were coming out to deny the allegation. But denial is another thing. Explaining, giving details is another thing. But the president is quiet. EFCC, ICPC, and every other person are quiet. So the only thing we'll say is, I want to ask myself is, are we in our hands? In our hands in the sense that, what do we do? Because the reality is, when there is no coexistence of governance, there is no issues of innovations and technology where people will be able to, you know, ask questions about these particular things. We will be where we are till the whole thing happens. Because really, if you look at what is happening on the Pandora Papers, you that are working with Trust TV today, I'm 100% sure this is not a new thing for you guys, right? For me, working in the development space, trying to track government spendings, looking at other problems, I think Pandora Papers did not even go deep, you know. And then the question is, for me, it is not a problem for an individual to own a company, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a problem for a public servant to do that. and a whole lot of people were mentioned there. And the people that regulate them did not say anything. So what do I have to say?
Right.
And that's the problem.
Okay. I can remember vividly in an interview in June, President Buhari mentioned that fighting corruption in the democratic system is difficult. What are your thoughts about that statement for somebody that is an ambassador of corruption?
The right is, I think he is right to say fighting corruption is difficult. But in his state, it's never difficult. Why do I say it's never difficult? There is governance and there is good governance. Now, in good governance, we have what is called co-creation, right? We have what is called technology and innovation, what is called partnerships. Now, let's come back to Pandora Paper. Pandora Paper happens because there was a partnership between Premium Times and other international recognized investigative journalists, right? Or journalism firm. And they were able to investigate this and come up with Pandora Papers, right? Now, we have ICPC, we have EFCC, we have NFIU, we have SCUMEL, we have a whole lot of agencies. And in each and every MDA, there is meant to be sort of a disciplinary committee or something. Now, if there is that coexistence between these guys, and then we have the citizen at large, right? We have the civil society organizations. We have people around. The citizen, if they have the required information to fight corruption as a journalist or a citizen or someone that works in the development space today, you need what is called data.
Right.
And that data is not available. So what I will say is, for me, for the president, that is, I can't say it's difficult because he came to power on the mantle of we will fight corruption, we will end corruption, right? So for me today, sitting down on a personal note, I will say there are things that is being reduced in the sense that the chain of corruption, has been reduced. Because if you look at things, I just come to realize that our economy is booming, but the informal sector of our economy is not booming.
Right.
Do you know why? Because the informal sector depend on basically the 10 naira, the 20 naira, the 30 naira that circulate. And there is no circulation of that funds, right? Simply because if you look at what happened on the Pandora Papers, there are a whole lot of what is the economic perception of that issue. You remove money from a particular country and take it to another country and invest. So you not investing in that country cost the country a whole lot of things, and that's what we are seeing with devaluation of naira, right? So I will say partnership has not been really explored. Co-creation in the fight against corruption has not been really explored because a lot of people were not allowed, were not given the information. There are a lot of information that is hidden, and governance is all about question and answer,
right?
Demand and supply. You ask us as citizens to vote for you to represent us. Now we send you to represent us. Ideally, what you're meant to do is to give us information so that we'll hold you accountable. Legitimacy leads to credibility, right? Credibility leads to accountability, and accountability leads to service. Service leads to power. So I have power as a citizen. Mr. President has power as the person representing me, and we need to share that power, not looking at powers from power within and power over, so now we sort of have a government that have just the power without giving the citizen the power, because we don't get to ask questions. Our answers, we don't get to answer the questions. My only point I will say is the government should explore more collaboration, more partnerships, and get the citizen and the civil society organization involved, and we'll fight the corruption.
Now, do you support calls for a special court to try corruption matters?
In as much as I feel we have a whole lot of courts, right? Why don't we empower the CCT, right? Give it an independent powers and have legitimate people and have people that understand the system, people that value their dignity, people that value their integrity to be part of that system. Now empower it in the sense that make it an independent body, right? That is, the first issue is you cannot fight this whole issue at the middle or at the end. You have to start it elsewhere. Now, as we sit here, how many people run for offices in Nigeria and had to declare their asset before going to run? Not skeletal asset, complete asset. The only person we have on books is the governor of Oyo State. I'm not trying to press him, but it is there, right? He's had around 15 billion, and he gave a breakdown of how he was able to reach that level, right? So if you don't declare, right, we cannot come and say this is, how can you be, you just be a leader today and you'll be rich tomorrow. A councillor who is representing the people, today he is a normal person, tomorrow you see him a big car, putting tinted glasses, and he's a big boy, right? So the point is, the fight has to come from the beginning. Let's give each and every, the judiciary should have their own powers. Now, back to your question, I will say let's empower, all right? Let's give powers. Let's make it independent for the Court of Conduct Bureau to be able to, handle these cases. And then there are options of tribunals, or there are options of, creating a separate entity among the maybe Court of Appeal or High Court that can entertain all these cases. Corruption cases in Nigeria has been a case that you come, we listen to you. If you're coming in the next 2 months, you come with a bandage and everything, you want to fly out. And that is the reality. So it becomes like a normal thing. You that is a journalist, you hear the whole thing, you cannot sleep because you read figures, you go back. People that are in the houses listening to news or watching TVs tend to now shift their ideologies from that particular thing to another thing because there is no trust. And the moment trust has moved from people to government, automatically the government will not work. So I will say, let's empower and then make the judiciary an independent body and get people that are legitimate, people that value their integrity to hate these kind of things, and we'll get things right.
Okay, as an organization that looks into, cases like this, what has your organization done, in the past year to push people, these public officers who under-declare, because most of them under-declare their assets? What has your organization done in that regard?
The Nigeria is very big, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very big. And I have to tell you that the reality is we cannot be everywhere.
Right.
Now, as Connected Development, we have project, we have flagship project. We have a project called Follow the Money, which I lead in Nigeria. Now, Follow the Money is a project we use to track government spendings, but in basic education, basic health, water and sanitation. Now, why do we choose that? The people in the rural marginalized communities are the people we're trying to give a voice, right? So basic education starts from primary to JS3, right? Basic health start at primary health care. Now, water, sanitation, and hygiene is to enable us now think around to stop open defecation and what have you. Now, one of the basic things we have been doing is, with that project, is tracking and advocating. Now, we have a project we call Youth Organizing Leadership. Now, youth organizing leadership is we get young people across states and now inform them that, hey, we need to be part of governance. We need to be part of budget cycles. We need to involve ourselves in governance because we need to ask better questions. Right? Why are we doing that? Why we're doing that is understanding we cannot do it alone. Right? What we can do as an organization, if one community stand on their toes to say we're going to hold our representative accountable, then they will have a massive point. I'm trying to tell you that, just take a look and see. We just finished Big Brother. I'm sure maybe some of you or two of you are watching, or you've watched Big Brother, right? On the last day of the show, the organizers said they've had over 1 billion vote. Now calculate if that 1 billion vote can decide to say we're going to look at a leader that is credible, that is legitimate, that we can hold accountable and watch him provide service and take ownership. And we take ownership of that. that is going to be a great thing, right? But the reality of what we're seeing is people are beginning to say, we don't understand this entire system because we don't get to have someone or that person. Now, coming back to the political system, a lot of people think I will not be in the political system because I am too clean. And that is what rendered us to where we are today, right? So we have a political party that is not thinking about the country, but is thinking about, zoning, whether south or north, whether north. What has that got to do with Nigeria? We're trying to protect Nigeria irrespective of you're from the north, you're from the south, you're from the east or whatsoever, right? So why don't we look at credibility? Why don't we look at track record? Today, sorry to say that, if you want to be the president of this land, all you need is an O-level certificate, right? A secondary school certificate. That's all you need. But if you want to get a job of 50,000 naira in Nigeria, I think it's just above $1, right? Or maybe below $100, right? You need at least a degree. You need 2 years experience. Don't you think we don't even understand what we're trying to do? Why don't we get someone that understand economy, understand government, understand partnerships, private partnerships and public partnerships to sort of, give us ownership, because government is a job of you and I, right? Everybody involved. But today, if I sit here and keep on and I will say I'll give us problems from highest number of out of school children, highest number of people living in poverty. If you're poor in Nigeria, there's what is called multidimensional poverty. You're poor in all angles. And that is the problem. So we are trying to get young people, which we believe young people have the largest number. One of the largest number of Nigerian population start from 0 to 14, right? But young people still contribute to the large number. Right. We're trying to see how we can get young people to begin to trust the system, because all young people want to do now is everybody want to leave the country.
Indeed.
And we keep on saying, if you leave the country, your mom will decide to stay, your dad will stay. So half of you is out there, half of you is in there. And then you will be the same person. Just take a look and see the amount of people in diaspora, what they contribute to our economy. But they don't get even opportunity to vote. And that's why we always call for that. So what I'm trying to say is, as an organization, we're looking at having more people involved in governance, having more people have interest in running for political offices, so that we will have that thing. Because as a civil society person, the only thing I can do today is to support the government. But if we have someone that is smart, accurate, and intelligent in government, he can implement things, and he will allow the people, or let me say the civil society people, the people that's the citizen, to change his attitude towards things, change his behaviors towards things, and we will have policies that can work for the betterment of all of us.
Okay, well, this administration actually came with the mantra of fighting corruption. How would you rate or assess their performance so far?
Are we still fighting corruption? And I'll give you an example. Earlier I mentioned, in this country, in this administration, we've seen on the news, I don't know how true is the news, maybe you can confirm that, we've seen in the news that monkey swallows money, right? Snakes swallow money, right? And then we are today sitting down talking about billions, not millions, not in naira, in dollars. We're talking about issues of people that are part of government, that were part of government, that might have taken some certain amount of money, but nobody said anything. I don't know, maybe the government is trying to verify, right? Yes, we can say verification, but the reality is we should see that happen. Communicate to us as citizens that votes for you to be there, that hey, we are doing our own independent investigation, so that we will know, right? But the point is, we are seeing another case. So I will say, the government says it's fighting corruption, but to me, till today, we're still struggling with state. I deal with fact and data, right? How do I get data? I get it from these government guys, right? So using freedom of information law, ask anybody, has been a really challenge. Why? Because in some states, there is this word they use. The FOI is not domesticated in our state.
Right.
You understand? So if you don't get data, how can you assess whether the fight against corruption is happening or is not happening? One of the basic things that get young people to be part of this system, or how young people, a whole lot of young people don't watch TV. One of the major way they look at what government is doing is through Twitter, right? Through Facebook, let me say in general, social media. Today, we're seeing a massive clamor on the total on the social media thing, which, yeah, I mean, to some certain instance, government has their own path, but young people and other people has their own part to play as well. So if you're looking at regulating social media, it's good, go ahead and regulate it, but allow people to partake in it.
Right.
How many months can we see? And then see, small and medium enterprises have contributed a lot to our economy, and one of the major way you can get that your business advertised is through the social media, through the Twitter and what have you. It's been shut down in as much as people are using VPN, but it's not safe.
It's not actually.
Right? And it doesn't give us a correct name out there. Right? We are looking at policies that will bring people together. But this one is bringing policies that divide people. Today, if you say this, they will say you're pro this. If you say the other one, you're anti that. So the whole point is, I will have to say, there is no coexistence, right? Because everybody today, if you want to travel to the southeast, you're afraid, because maybe there is a group that will harm you. If you want to go to the northeast, I'm just coming from Borno, I always tell people that the resilience in Borno, I've never seen it anywhere. Because you see people living their normal life, right? Not because there are no problems, but they have come to live with it. And Nigerians, we're happy people.
Right.
In as much as all these things is happening, we still look at it and say, you know what, we move.
Right.
But the reality is, we're not going anywhere. If the young people in the country are all they think is not to bring innovation and ideas, is to jabber, or what do they call it, to get out of the country, then there is a problem.
Right.
And we need to do something about it.
Okay, so do you think politics has a role to play in the silent treatment given by the government and the anti-graft agencies with regards to the Pandora Papers investigation?
So the reality is, I'm not a politician and I don't want to be for now, right? I cannot say whether it's politics or whatsoever, but the reality is the silent is bad. It kills the morale, because the people that invest their time to do this investigation, it's not a one-day investigation, no 2-day, no 3-day, or no 1 month or so. It kills their morale, because it's become a normal news. You know, it's only in Nigeria that breaking news is a normal phenomenon.
Right.
We get breaking news after 3 hours, we get another one. Or after 1 day. There was a time we were doing a senator slaps a woman, the next day something happened the next day. You know, I just want you to understand one thing. That silent treatment has rendered a lot of things not working. So I will have to say the silent treatment is not good. I don't know whether it's political or whatsoever, but it might contribute to being political, because some people that are part of the government, like the KB thing, the other state in the southwest, I know one of the governor is there, and then one of the father of the governor of Niger is also there, and other billionaires. And then, yeah, the former governor of Anambra State and other, is it Anambra or another state? What I'm trying to say is, the silent treatment is not a good thing for our country. Because as a young person sitting down here, that I looked at this, I read about this, I always ask myself, the people that are giving birth, you know, what are you thinking? And you go ahead and give birth, because the future is not there. If you go around today in Abuja, please try and check. the highest number of the growing thing in Abuja today is the real estate.
Right.
And most of the estates are not occupied. You think people don't want to stay? You see some people want to be following Maraba Nyanya hold up for hours. They want to stay here. But to get a complete self-content that most people like me will stay will cost you around 600,000, right? How much is your salaries? I don't know that numbers, but half of the young people working in Abuja earn below 150,000 naira, right? How will you contribute to that amount? So the level between the rich and the poor is very wide, to the extent it's becoming scary day by day. And we are having issues of naira devaluation. You go buy tomatoes today, and a tomato seller will tell you dollar is higher.
Still talking about politics, we've seen cases where politicians, facing criminal charges, decamp to the ruling party. Don't you think that doesn't that leave some kind of doubt about the fight against corruption, especially in this administration?
The question is, when they decamp, are their cases being kept aside? Which is, in some instance, yes. In some instance, you get to see adjournment for 1 year or something. The reality is, I will still go back to what I said. Without political priority, without that priority politically, then everything will go south, right? I know of a case of a senator that decamped to another party and his cases went south. I know of, on this Pandora paper, the former aviation minister, she's been having cases in the court, right? But now she has come to APC, the cases have been silent, and today she is part of the Pandora paper, and nothing is happening. The truth is, there is no political will. Nothing is being prioritized, right? There is no political will to the fight against corruption. So we have to say politically, everything is politics. All of us are politicians. I say what suit where I'm coming from, right? Because that is, I'm trying to represent the people, right? You tell me or you ask me questions based on fact, right? So if these guys are in the political space, if that thing does not suit them, they will always keep quiet. I will tell you, I will give you an example. I know of someone in the presidency that have over 700 followers on Twitter, 700,000 followers on Twitter. But when he was asked on CNN, if you see how he was magnonoring, you'll be wondering, where do you want to place yourself? Do you want to place yourself at that point of supporting government? You want to support, because he also is not enjoying the vibe. 700,000, really? And then that thing has been blocked. So tell me how he will enjoy it. But the fact that he is in government, he cannot go against the government, and that is a problem.
Right.
So from the get-go, I will say, other countries, now you go to America, there are a lot of political parties in the system of America, right? But the point is, people come to say, this one is a Democrat. Democrats believe in this and this and this and this. So if you believe in that ideology, you go that way. They are Republicans. Republicans believe in this and this and this. If you believe in their ideologies, you go. But today in Nigeria, we don't have any ideology. Everybody that comes with a normal campaign strategy. I will fight corruption. I will get electricity stable. I will do this. All of them are one but the same thing. And the other people that want to say we are different, right? You will see someone will not stand up. Becoming the president of Nigeria is not a day beans that you just wake up and declare on Twitter or on Facebook. How many people on Facebook? How many people are out there, right? Some time to election, then you see them come out and they can't go anywhere. So because there is no trust, a lot of young people prefer to go and play football on the street because there is no movement and stuff. The people that understand how system works are the people in the diaspora. They are not allowed to vote. So the reality is, if there is no political will, we have been advocating for the transmission of election results and stuffs electronically. It was a serious fight. But today, when they had a small, political will to it, it has been passed.
Right.
So I will say political will is the biggest thing that we need to look into, and people need to speak one voice. All of us as citizens need to drop issues of religion, issues of culture, issues of ethnicity and everything, because we are humans before any other thing.
Okay.
And today, if something affects me, it will definitely affect you. I might see you for the first time, but we might meet elsewhere. At least we'll exchange pleasantries and stuff. So what I'm trying to say is we have to see ourselves as one. And then we have to look at the goal of the country as something we want to achieve, and then draw an objective that will lead us to the achievement of our goal. And that is how we will get it right.
Okay, so before we wrap up this segment on the program, what kind of signal, with this all upheaval we're having down here in Nigeria, signal with the international community?
One, economically, right? I am from this country. I stole money from this country, or I have money from this country, and I took the money and invested elsewhere. Maybe, sorry, I'm using you as an example. You are an investor in another country. Will you have confidence to come and invest here? You will not. Because the owners of the country did not invest. So how do you expect me to come here and invest? There are problems. One, I am afraid that my business will be looted, right? My business will be looted. That is one. Two, my business will, I will be kidnapped, right? Three, there is a government policy that will come and render me useless. I'll give you an example. The Go-Kada in Lagos, one government policy rendered them off the market. They have to re-strategize to say they will start doing logistics, right? Now, a lot of businesses, people come to do business during the COVID-19 looting. That is the worst thing that might have happened in a country. But we see it happen. A lot of businesses that don't have anything to do with government were looted. Some of them are yet to recover up to today. Some businessmen and women were kidnapped. We're in a country that over 300 children will be put on the street as kidnapped. Kidnappers will kidnap them. That thing should scare you, because put 300 books in this building, work with it. Everybody will be looking at you. It's something strange. But humans, over 300, and then they will stay at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then they will come back. You know the funniest thing? There are tellers that will sew kaftan for them in one day, and they wear it and come and sit down, see media, and no investigation, nothing. So it's a sad reality.
All right, thank you so much, Mukhtar Modibo, Community Engagement Associate of Connected Development, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We hope to have you next time.
Sure, why not if not?
All right, stay tuned. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll move into the next discussion.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, a load of 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day.
For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
Welcome back. It's still Daybreak on Trust Television, and we're still discussing the fight against corruption in Nigeria. And we have in the studio with us Lukman Adefolahon. He's an anti-corruption crusader and also the Chief Operating Officer, 24th Century Community Empowerment Initiative, and he joins us in the conversation today. Good morning, sir, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning for having me.
Welcome to the show.
All right, so we're still talking about the leak by Pandora Papers, and this particular project, as it says, involved 600 journalists from 150 news organizations around the world, busy sorting and analyzing, almost 12 million confidential files. How, even with this, how do we verify its authenticity? Because some of the people listed have actually come out to, debunk some of the leaks.
Thank you very much. I think confirming the authenticity of the leak, I think that should not be an issue. It should not be an issue because this is not the first time we are going to have such leaked. We've had two before, Panama and the other one, plus days. And if you look at the organization involved, including our own PTCIJ, Premium Times Investigative Arm, we realize that they are credible organizations. But I think the key thing there is for our anti-corruption agencies to follow up with that leak and see what they can do to it. Nobody will agree that it's a thief. So if my name is being mentioned, I will tell you that I don't know anything about it. And that shows the lack of coordination, information sharing, and synergy among the anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria. Very unfortunate. We've had two United Nations Convention Against Corruption reviews in Nigeria. The first was in 2012. The second one was 2014. Nigeria is a signatory to United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which is a binding document on countries that are state parties to UNCAC, and we have been reviewed twice. And from those two reviews, what came out from the recommendations are those things I mentioned. There is need to build the capacity of anti-corruption agencies. There are the staff working there, there is need for synergy among the anti-corruption agencies. There is need to share information as well. And that now takes us to our own national document, which is NACS, National Anti-Corruption Strategy, that was adopted in 2016. That document will lapse this year, and there is an agency saddled with the responsibility of monitoring the implementation. Unfortunately, no resources was allocated for that organization to even monitor the implementation of the NACS. Because you will agree with me that prevention is better than cure. If our anti-corruption agencies are working in a coordinated manner, maybe Nigerians may not be part of this type of league. But unfortunately, we have 27 anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria, or 27 MDAs with anti-corruption mandate, being coordinated by Technical Unit on Governance and Anti-Corruption Reform, TUGA, and the Secretariat is within the NAIT, and there is an Interagency Task Team, IATT, that works on different working group as it relates to provision of ONCAC. So if you look at our NACS, it has 5 broad pillars. And the first one talks about prevention. And I think that is what we need to dwell on. How can we prevent corruption not to happen? And the best way for us to do that, it has been provided for us in our constitution by way of strengthening the Code of Conduct Bureau. Unfortunately, that agency is not empowered at all. You need to go and see their office where they are. I'm not advocating for them, but if we're really serious about fighting corruption, because your topic says we are looking at Pandora paper and the fight against corruption, the first thing we're supposed to do is to prevent. Because the money you are going to spend to prosecute is not a small money. Why not you prevent the occurrence? Right. Why not you work together with other anti-corruption agencies? You see a situation where EFCC will take somebody to court, ICPC will take somebody to court, Code of Conduct Bureau will take somebody to the tribunal, and they'll be using the same public resources to fight one person. Why not, if you have reliable information, share it with others, then work together. It is the same federal government resources. Then that gives us result. If you look at the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, the second pillar talk about awareness creation and reorientation. Nigerians need to be reoriented. We need that because Pandora paper or no Pandora paper, what we should be asking ourselves is, what is the economic implication on us?
Right.
Which is key. Now, you take the money from here, bounce, you dump it there. They are making use of that money there. And our own naira is suffering here. That is one of the implications on us. We don't have industries here. Our MSMEs are nowhere to be found. We are just hearing figures, numbers. And what we do is ad hoc intervention. They are not institutionalized. Because if you ask anybody in APC today, what they will tell you is they've released certain amount of billions to support MSME. Where are the MSME that they supported? That is the question. And the money you are giving them, is it sustainable? Paying 3 months salary of a small and medium enterprises as to cushion the effect of COVID-19. 3 months, my sisters, for God's sake. Is that sustainable? The answer is no. But can we institutionalize? And the next question we ask ourselves is, if one of the provisions of the ONCAC is international cooperation. It is high time Nigerians should stop doing jamboree in the name of attending international conferences and meetings. By December now, we are going to gather at Sharm el in Egypt to go and discuss NICOPS, the Conference of State Parties, to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. And Nigeria has been pushing about asset recovery, management, and utilization.
Right.
These people that are taking this money, this resources from us, they are also signatory to this document we are talking about on CAC. Why can't they blow the whistle? Why can't they raise the issue? Now, somebody now brings the money to your country. To return it now become problem. Now started setting conditions for us before we get our money back. And like the other speaker said, if you're an investor and I'm a Nigerian, and always I take my money to Jersey, nobody from Jersey will come to Nigeria because the thinking now is Nigeria is not okay, Nigeria is not safe.
Right.
So Nigerians need to work, especially the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Justice, needs to work in a coordinated manner to engage international partners, discuss bilaterally, and see how, yes, we have gained some things in terms of asset repatriation, but the challenge now is management of those assets. Because the question we ask is, the money they are recovering, what are they doing with it? And they will tell you that they are using it to augment budget implementation. And it is high time that I think instead of now using it in form of lump sum, if you, like, for example, the Ibori loot, can you use that money for the people of Delta State and tag it as a return from Ibori loot? If you recover another from another person, why not you take it back to their state, give them water, good road, hospitals, and tag it as a return? Because by the time you say you use it to augment budget implementation, to me it's not reasonable. But a situation whereby you use it for dedicated projects, it will have meaning to the victims of the corruption in those states. Because money looted, some people have suffered in terms of infrastructure, social amenities. So then when you get such money back, why not you take it back to those victims? Let them benefit from the looted fund.
Right. So now between 2006 and 2015, Nigeria accounted for $8.3 billion in illicit financial flows. What are your thoughts about this?
It's still the same thing. If you look at the IFF, there is this campaign, we said Nigeria is bleeding. It was after the release of the popular Thabo Mbeki report on illicit financial flow. And the question is, we are not consistent. Because if we are consistent, the recommendations from the Thabo Mbeki report on illicit financial flow from Africa alone, a serious government should sit down, at African Union and ECOWAS should sit down, distill those recommendations, and provide solution on how to prevent it. As we are speaking today, we are still dragging with National Assembly to pass a Proceeds of Crime bill into law in Nigeria. And we are seizing assets. My sister, if you go towards Central area, opposite Central Mosque, there is a very big compound where returned vehicles are parked by EFCC. What are they doing there by now? The challenge is either some are interim forfeiture, some are final forfeiture. Those ones you have that you have final forfeiture for, why not you dispose it and make use of the proceeds from those? Right. Then you prevent next occurrence. We have been talking about IFF since. What are the legal framework we put in place to fight against illicit financial flow? We talk about CAMA. We talk about, we sign on to OGP. One of the key action within the OGP is to have CAMA repealed. It has been repealed. And so what? Then our monitoring and evaluation strategy is very weak. We don't have coordinated documentation. If you go to the EFCC website today, the information you get there is different from what you will get from if the chairman is speaking. Or you go to ICPC today, you can't get coordinated information as it relates to asset management and disposal in Nigeria, which is very, very bad as a nation. Because if we are fighting corruption, we should fight it in a coordinated way, in such a way that it will have direct impact on Nigerians. For example, procurement process. We have been talking about open contracting. Till today, what we hear from National Assembly is our budget is 150 billion. Can we see the breakdown? You can't see National Assembly breakdown budget. Who is spending what? What are you spending? So you should be able to track as a Nigerian, because that is our interest. We want to see how you are spending it. If you say you have allocated 20 million naira for health facility per ward in Nigeria, do we get that 20 million released? That is another question. Because there are two different things. Budgeted for, not released. What is the essence of budgeting for it? But budgeted for, 50% has been released. Can we see 50% work on the ground? If no, what happened? If yes, can we release the next tranche of the 50%? Then by the time we now do budget performance review, then you'll be able to say, okay, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, they have released 100% of your budget to you. Then why can't we see health facilities? Then somebody will tell us something. But we have budgeted for 20 billion, they only gave us 2 million. What are they going to do with 2 million? So those are the challenges. We are not ready as a country. And then, if you look at our budget system, we like cut and paste, we repeat everything. So duplication is still one of the major issues in the fight against corruption in Nigeria. And I think it is high time. The anti-corruption agencies need to work closely with other bodies. NFIU. NFIU has been set up as independent organization that analyze financial activities in Nigeria and disseminate the information to relevant anti-corruption agencies to take action. That is a good step. But can we sustain that? Can we now see how we can strengthen the activity of NFIU as well? Formerly, it was within the EFCC. Now, it is an independent organization. We should be able to support them technically, financially.
Okay. All right. Now, some say Nigeria's tax regime is too stiff, and this is what discourages, a lot of people from leaving their assets here in Nigeria. Do you agree with this?
No. I disagree with that. I disagree with that because why are you creaming somebody's economy and ours is suffering? The safety we are talking about, we caused it. Ask ourselves what led to where we are. It is the poor governance that led us to where we are. Our last 10 years or 15 years, nobody hear about Boko Haram, bandits, kidnapping. Even the kidnapping we do here that time is just to get ransom at the Niger Delta axis, and we all know the reasons. And immediately I came on board, that reduced. So bad governance led us to insecurity. Bad governance led us to insecurity. So and the best we can do if we want Nigeria to be secure is for our political leaders to deliver dividend of democracy with sincerity. Not telling me that a governor will go and commission a borehole and will be happy doing that. That is not his mandate. Commissioning of borehole. That should be at the grassroots. For councillors, not even for the chairman of an area council or local government. Then, you see, autonomy to the local government will solve a lot of problems in Nigeria, including the fight against corruption. Give them their money. Let them spend their money, because local government is the closest to the people.
Right.
You can't tell me that you are going to do everything from FCDA or you are going to do everything from the state capital. It's not possible. Before, maintenance of burial ground, market is saddled with local government. Do you get it now? Now, we are not seeing all those things again. Why? Because of selfish interests of the governors that refused to allow local government to work independently. Out of the 36 states, we can count state governors that have conducted election in their state. We can count them out of the 36. But I don't want to give you figure. We can count. They are less than 10. So what they have is sole administrators. If I don't like your face, you can't be part of it. And if I put you there, you are not ready to dance to my tune, I remove you, I put another person. It's not sustainable. And that is why we see that, look at our area councils. Apart from AMAC, out of the 6 area councils in FCT, apart from Buhari area council, which is Kubwa, which other area council you can boast of social amenities? Kogode area council, Kuje, Abaji, Kwali, 0. The concentration is at the AMAC because it's within the city center. So people are not benefiting, and we are all taxpayers, either directly or indirectly. We that we pay direct tax is very unfortunate that they are misusing our resources. But we continue to talk, continue to call their attention to it.
Right. So do we need an international intervention to change the situation?
When you say international intervention in terms of what? Bilateral relationship, which we have already. We discuss with countries. We are discussing with Morocco now on fertilizer blending. We are discussing with, because we can't do it alone. We need them, they need us. But my own concern is we are not beggars. Nigeria is not a beggar. We are not poor. Just that we are not coordinated. Because if you say intervention, is it in form of aid? Let them bring their aid, but the aid should be coordinated at the same time. Because if you look at what the international agencies are doing also, they are duplicating a lot of things as well. And if you get to the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, if you ask that question today, they will hardly give you a correct answer. Who is bringing what? Now we are getting vaccine from different countries now. How many do we have? How many do we still have in the store? How many Nigerians have been vaccinated? We should have all those data so that it will help us to even plan. How many can we do domestically? We have medical school, we have medical research labs. We should be able to do at least domestic one that we can use without those intervention. Don't forget we talk about international cooperation as part of provision in the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. We can't do it alone because there are areas that we have advantage over others. Then we can come together in terms of partnership and we agree on how to do it. Just like joint ventures we are doing in the oil and gas sector. We have the crude. Unfortunately, because of inconsistency, we can't refine what we have. It's like you now you are a cocoa farmer. They will come and buy the cocoa product from you, take it back, and you go and buy chocolate at very high price. Can't we think internally and see how we can stop all those things so that Naira can have some strength? Because that is one of the major issues. Our export is lesser to our import. The import is higher. So we spend a lot of foreign currencies to bring things in. And what we are taking is not up to what we are bringing in. It is simple arithmetic.
Okay, well, the EFCC recently asked bank executives to declare their assets. Now, is this necessary since they're not public officers as defined for the purpose of Code of Conduct?
It is. I think it's one of the measures to also control the bank executives, because if you look at the fight against corruption, we are talking about public corruption, but corruption in the private sector is another thing entirely, especially professional bodies. Professional bodies. All these Pandora people we are talking about, by the time you go deeper, what is the role of lawyers? Because before you go and invest in another country, you must incorporate a company. So what is the role of lawyers? What is the role of tax consultants? What is the role of auditors? Somebody prepares the financial report. So I think EFCC asking bank executives to declare their asset is a welcoming idea too, but can we sustain it? Can we institutionalize it? Because that may be the initiative of the current chairman. So if it is not institutionalized, if another chairman should come on board, can they continue with it? The answer is no. But if it is institutionalized, either as part of our law or part of our policy program, then we can sustain it. But if it is institutionalized, somebody just sleep and think of an initiative and it put it through, what happened after him? Before NSIP, the social investment program, we've had Shopee. What happened to Shopee? Shopee and NSIP, they are the same thing. But because Shopee was not institutionalized, we felt it's not relevant. Somebody now, we just changed name for the same thing. And I think it is high time we should institutionalize key initiatives that will help us in terms of sustainable development. If you look at fighting corruption, it's part of the SDGs. You will see it under SDG 16. Under peace, good governance, anti-corruption. Anti-corruption was not mentioned clearly under SDG.
Right? Yes.
Well, but SDG 16 is part of good governance. Corruption is part of it. So we should now, Nigerians are not ready to volunteer information. Why? Because we are not protected. No whistleblowing protection for anybody that want to give information. Ordinary police station, if you report your neighbor to police station, after 3 or 4 days, that person will come to your house and say, so you are the one that went to police and go and report me. Because the IPO will tell him or her, your neighbor was the one that came here to come and report you. So you have to be careful with him.
Terrible.
I stayed in the outskirts of Abuja. I know what we are facing in terms of security. And if you go to police station, you go and report anybody, 3-4 days, they will come back to you and say, so you are the one that went to DPO to go and report us. You will see what we are going to do for you. So can we see, we have been dragging whistleblowing law in this country now for over 16 years now. Up to today, what we have is policy. And the policy is even domiciled within the Ministry of Finance. And to even get into Ministry of Finance headquarters, my sisters, it's terrible.
It's a problem.
Did you get it now? You can see the way we are thinking. Now you have a whistleblowing policy in place, and you domicile it in Ministry of Finance. When the Nigerian find it difficult to even access that office. What of if you put it in NOAA's office? NOAA, they have offices across the 477 local governments in Nigeria, 774 local governments. Why not in NOAA? Empower NOAA to do that. Because one of the mandates of NOAA is to publicize policies and programs of government. If you domicile such meaningful policy within National Orientation Agency or Public Complaint Commission, have you been to NOAA's office before? It is open market. Ministry of Finance, somebody will ask your name. Can we know why you are here? Even if you want to come and report any issue. And we don't have enough infrastructure that support all what we are saying. It is high time for us to use technology to fight corruption.
Right.
technology.
We'll have to stop right here.
Okay, I just have one more question.
Oh, okay.
Before you stop. All right, so would you say that the CBN is unaware of such an enormous money diversion or such enormous money diversions out of the country, considering their regulatory policies?
Remember I mentioned about coordination, information sharing. Are they doing that? What they do is interagency rivalry. And that will not take us to anywhere. Because if NFIU is doing proper financial analysis, CBN is regulating, EFCC is controlling the financial crimes and economic crime, they will work together. They will see it. Police will see. People at the port will see it. When they are moving it, either electronically or whatever, they will see it. But we are not coordinated. So our major problem is interagency rivalry. And that makes our fighting corruption to be difficult. And I think it is high time we use technology. And I give you a very good example before we go. Go to our higher institutions. Before, we used to pay school fees. You go to Bus Street to go and pay your school fees. But now if you want to pay any school fees now, you go and log in, you pay through Remitter, then you take the... So everybody will see that. So even if there will be any sharp practices, it will be minimal. So it is high time we should deploy technology to fight corruption in Nigeria and to collaborate, share information, synergize with other anti-corruption agencies and other partners around the world.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Lukman Adefolahan. Yes, for joining us on Daybreak today. He's an anti-corruption crusader and the COO, that's the Chief Operating Officer, 24th Century Community Empowerment Initiative. Stay tuned. Sports in 60 comes up next.
Hello, welcome to Trust Sports in 60 seconds. Deontay Wilder will not be quitting boxing after losing to Tyson Fury for a second time, says the American lead trainer Malik Scott. Wilder, who's 35 years old, was knocked out in the 11th round by Fury in a thrilling WBC World Championship fight in Las Vegas. Former Nigerian forward Victor Ikpeba has kicked against the call by some Nigerians and ex-international demanding the sack of Kenneth Rowe as Super Eagles coach. Ikpeba says that Rowe has done enough to remain as coach of the Super Eagles. European champions Chelsea are in early informal talks with Real Madrid to re-sign former star player Eden Hazard. Hazard returning to Chelsea is a rumor that refuses to go away as his struggles at Madrid continues. And finally, Thibaut Courtois has accused football governing bodies of prioritizing money over the welfare of players who he feels are being treated like robots. And that's all the top headlines on Trust Sports in 60 seconds. Do not forget to subscribe, like and follow us across all social media platforms.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Well, with Sports in 60, you've come to the end of Daybreak today. It's been quite an interesting day, hasn't it?
It has been. Hopefully tomorrow will be better. All right, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for staying tuned to Daybreak on Trust Television. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 7 a.m., same station on Star Times, channel 164, and also on Free TV.
Now, for more of our programs, you can catch up with us across all our social media platforms. I'm Zainab Bala.
And I remain Dashan Husseina Usman. Have a wonderful day.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on